Yo, 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 yo. It's everyone's favorite content, a tier list. Yep, that's right. I'm doing another tier list. And, well, before I get into the disclaimers, I gotta point out that I know this is everyone's favorite content, especially that one dude that said Lisa's A tier because she can do 70k damage. Oh, and that one guy who believes Amber is better than both Noelle and Chongyun because she's really good at breaking shields. I know those guys love this kind of content. Anyways, I'm Gold Demon, and today we will be doing a Genshin Impact tier list. You can see how it's ordered. I'll be ordering the characters from S tier or SS tier to D tier. We don't have Amber tier, okay, because it's very serious. And there's, of course, not in game for the funny Geo boys that will be coming in the next update. So then, disclaimers. First off, this is not gospel, okay? Do not take this as the definitive tier list, obviously, right? I'm just a guy that wants to share my opinion on what I think, how strong each units are. Another thing is, I may value units differently than some other people. So if you think one is, misplaced or you disagree with me or whatever, perfectly okay. It's okay to agree or disagree with me. And lastly, right, this is just sort of like a suggestion. It's like, hey, this unit's really good, build it. So yeah, that's all I really have to say. Hopefully you guys understand. And well, let's hop into the tier list. So I'm gonna do it from order from top to bottom. Alright, so we got Geo Traveler. Well, I'm gonna do this with Geo and Electro Traveler, but I think they're like kind of meh. Now, the thing is with these two, right? Geo Traveler can be quite decent on the Geo team, providing some extra energy and some damage and some crit buff, which is pretty nice. Other than that, though, especially with characters that are soon to come out, you're probably not gonna be running them at all, right? Maybe they'll still have a spot in the team, but as of right now, currently, I think they're pretty solid. Electro Traveler is kind of solid and has its moments. However, it is clunky, and again, its damage overall isn't that good. Also, it doesn't work with Raiden, so because of that fact that it's not higher up. But yeah, I think B tier is a solid choice for them. Albedo, I actually think Albedo isn't that good. However, he's A tier for Albedo. Albedo currently, right, has a really good spot on the Geo team, right, as one of the key members. And on other teams, right, he can be decent for providing some supportive buffs, like if you run him a full Archipetra, right, you get some elemental damage and the elemental mastery increase, which can be nice. Otherwise, his damage outside of that is pretty low, unless of course you're on the full Geo team, right? But he's just kind of like average, right? He's not like horrible, right? I'm pretty much of a fan of him, but I'm really waiting to see what happens in the next update to see how much he changes, right? Amber, I actually quite like Amber, and I don't think she's as bad as people say. However, she runs into the problem of being really hard to get constellations for. But if you have her C6, right, she's actually pretty good. But besides that, it's like kind of mediocre, so I'm gonna slap her in C tier. Yeah, she's like okay. She can do some solid ult damage, right? But there's not much value in this unit besides, of course, if you're a whale with her like at C6, right? So yeah, C tier. Ayaka. Originally, I would have put Ayaka in S tier. However, I think she's SS tier. She does absolutely absurd burst damage, and one of her constellations even helps supportive-wise, right? She's just a really strong character overall, and fills a slot in like one of the best teams in the game. So, yeah, S tier. She's a very good DPS character. Barbara, I think Barbara's actually pretty good. However, she's lackluster as a healer due to how her kit works. And secondly, right, there are other heroes in the game that far exceed what she can do for the most part. So, just for being, pretty much average, the free character that everyone's got, right? B tier. Yeah. Beidou's pretty good. She's not as high as she once was that I would normally place her in a tier list, mostly because she doesn't work with key characters like Raiden. And that in a single target scenario, she is not that good. Like, her ult is basically useless, right? A single target scenario. But all around, she's quite solid, has some defensive capabilities, and very high burst damage. So yeah, A tier. Bennett, I don't need to explain this. Chongyun. I don't think Chongyun's that good, but he's quite solid. The thing about him, right, is he does add some supportive effects with his cooldown decrease and cryo application for allowing for very consistent melting. And if you do run him as a damage dealer, right, his ult can do really strong damage. So all around, pretty solid. I'd say B tier. Diluc A tier. Diluc has fallen off from the start of the game, right? He used to be the DPS at the very beginning because he was the, only like pyro DPS character that we actually had. But the game has moved on, very far. It's been over a year now. Diluc is no longer at the top spot. He is A tier, right? Solid DPS, right? However, he just gets outclassed by other characters, so I can't really put him any higher than this. But he's still a very solid character all around. Alright, now for everyone's favorite thing, the hot takes. I'm telling you right now, this is probably a hot take for some people, but I truly believe this. I think Diona's SS tier. This is not a joke, okay? This unit does everything besides damage, but even if, you know, that's the fact, she's still doing more damage than some of the units on this list. That's not a joke. Diona provides so much for a lot of teams, and she's even on, you know, one of the best teams in the game, like the Freeze team, the Morgana team, right? There's a reason why this character is this high up, in my opinion, right? She excels at, you know, pretty much everything besides damage, right? This is a character that you should definitely upgrade, and is pretty easy to upgrade free to play, especially since you are given one of her best weapons for free, right? This character's awesome, and I just believe she's SS tier because she, well, has like 3rd best shield, right? You know, insane healing, support, everything. She does like everything. So SS tier. Fischl. Fischl's A tier. She's quite solid. She's got, you know, a wide variety of builds, which is nice. You know, and she's really good at C6, especially in some child comps. And she's really good alongside Beidou for energy recharge. But other than that, you're not using her too much. Besides, I think Yoimiya's team, right? Overload. But all around, she's just a solid unit. You know, good. You know, sub DPS character. And so yeah, S tier. Or sorry, A tier. My God. Ganyu, SS tier. Ganyu, you know, sort of the same reasons why other characters are up there. You know, insane support does really high damage, right? Ganyu's just overall good, and I cannot see putting her anywhere lower than this, right? So yeah, SS tier. Hu Tao, also SS tier. Hu Tao does provide some support, surprisingly. But the main thing about her is that she's insanely easy to build for free to play, right? Just all around, she's just insanely strong, right? Does really good damage, you know, has some supportive effects, and is really easy to build for, right? I'd say Hu Tao's an SS character just, you know, for those reasons. So yeah. Jean, I really like Jean, so maybe this is many people aren't going to agree with me of this, but I believe Jean is S tier. Jean provides pretty much everything besides like shield, right? You have some minor CC, right? You got some great heals, and you got some extra damage on it. And once you get constellations on her, she becomes absolutely absurd, right? Especially with other Anemo characters. All around, I just think Jean is a solid character that people sort of underrate how good she actually is. And especially with the Inazuma sword, which is really, I really enjoy that weapon on her. So yeah, S tier. Kaeya is actually pretty good, especially once you get constellations on him. But again, that's the one thing. For most people, it's unrealistic to have a lot of constellations on him. But he actually is pretty good. I feel like A tier is a solid place for him. Maybe B tier, I don't know. You could, you know, argue on that one. But overall, I'd say Kaeya is actually pretty strong. So yeah, I'll put him in A tier. Keqing, also A tier. Keqing has never been like insane or, you know, crazy, right? But she's still a decent character and is incredibly strong inside of quick swap teams, right? With her, you know, constant iframes and insane energy recharge, right? All around just a solid unit. I believe she's an A tier, you know. Klee, same thing. Klee can provide some support effects, right? Once you get constellations with her. She does run into a few problems with the fact that, you know, range doesn't matter, right? And that she's a catalyst user. On top of that, so, you know, that's sort of a limited weapon range that you have there. But even regardless, she's still really good at doing what she does. You know, a bunch of explosions and all around. Just again, I think it's a solid character. So A tier. Lisa's garbage. I actually think Lisa is worse than Amber, right? Now, the thing is, I know Lisa has a niche within nuking teams. However, there are other characters that will outclass her for that. However, I could see putting her in C tier. I'm going to leave her there because it makes more sense than D tier. I do think there are worse characters, actually. But, yeah, she's just not that good all around. Besides, again, her niche nuking capabilities on specific teams. So, yeah, C tier. Anemo Traveler, also C tier. Anemo Traveler isn't that good. Even with, you know, like, really high levels and, you know, once you get it maxed out. It can provide some supportive effects for elemental, you know, damage bonus or resistance shred. However, all of its things either cost time to charge and don't do good damage, or they get enemies away from you instead of, you know, grouping them together like you really want to, right? Um, and you know, for those reasons, it's just overall just not that good. So yeah, C tier. Mona is super good. I honestly don't know where to rate Mona. I've never been the biggest fan of this character. However, I have used her more recently, right? And she is pretty good. I'm not sure whether to rate her higher or not. I think S is a good standing though, because she is incredibly strong on not only freeze teams, but nuking teams, right? Getting at really high damage numbers. And so just, you know, having good constellations on top of that, you know, pretty much everything's solid about this character. So I'd say S tier. Ningguang. I don't think Ningguang's that good actually. And I'm sorry to Ningguang fans, but to this day, she still has some issues with her charge attacks and animations. She is super clunky, you know, her like playstyle. However, I am aware she can do great damage, right? That's obvious. It's the main draw for a lot of people for her. She was like one of the OG 4-star damage dealers that everyone used. But I don't really think she's that like insanely strong. And one, you know, huge downside is that some of her constellations are ultimately useless. Like that C1, it does effectively nothing. And that is unfortunate, right? Because this is a pretty cool character. But yeah, I'm gonna have to go B tier for her. Noelle, alright, here's another hot take. I think Noelle is actually super good. Now granted, again, this is another one of those characters where you gotta have those constellations for, right? For them to get that insane potential, right? But overall, even before that, I still think she's quite solid as like a mini Zhongli shield bot that will save some of your teams, right? She has some healing, right? She has great, you know, defense with her, you know, 2 shields that she has, right? And all around, it's just a, you know, solid character. It's the thing is with this is that most people just don't realize what you can do before C6, right? Which is quite unfortunate, right? And again, I do know she doesn't do much before C6, right? Because she doesn't generate energy, and you know, people are like, oh, she's a healer before then, right? But I do believe Noelle is actually quite good, right? As a like mini Zhongli that you can build her for. It's not as good, clearly, right? But all around, I do think she is a very good character and definitely worthy of at least having A tier. Qiqi, B tier. The thing is you don't need what Qiqi provides for the most part in the game. Also, the fact that she doesn't generate energy on herself until you get constellations, and that being a 5-star isn't that good. In comparison to Barbara, who is a 4-star, has the same issues of not generating, you know, a bunch of particles. Her being a 4-star means you're going to be able to get the constellation to get her energy back. You know, like, it's more common because she is a 4-star. But all around, they're pretty much the same. They're very similar characters. So I think Qiqi also belongs in B tier. Razor, I don't think Razor's that good. I know there are some people that like, oh, he's the best 4-star DPS. I don't think that's necessarily true, actually. I think it's more of a situational thing. But he is still really solid. However, I can't really put him any higher than this because I find these other characters outclass what Razor can do in multiple situations. But yes, he is still, you know, pretty good. Sucrose, S tier. I would put Sucrose higher if I was, you know, kind of biased because I do really like this character. But she's not like game breaking or like is gonna change everything like these characters up here. Pretty much do, right? Sucrose is incredibly strong, right? Very good support, really good AoE and grouping potential, and I mean, yeah, just S tier. Oh, and she's good energy battery for characters like Xiao. Child, I believe, also belongs in this tier. Normally I would put him lower, however, he came out with his new weapon recently, which really boosted his like normal attack damage and everything, which is, you know, quite good. He's got a good weapon now, right? Basically his best weapon. And his other characters on his main teams that you're going with, especially with some of the new ones that have released kind of recently, have really boosted him higher up for me personally, right? So I do think as of now he is S tier. Venti, I think, is in the same place. Now, Venti, this is a situational one, right? I understand putting him in SS tier. However, I don't really necessarily agree with that unless you got multiple constellations on him. Reason being is, first off, his constellation that gives him extra aim shot arrows is useless, right? But secondly, like, there is one that gives you Anemo Shred, which is really good for both him and other Anemo characters. But the point I'm trying to make here is, Venti mainly works when you have enemies that you can pick up, right? When you can't pick up, he doesn't do too much, right? His damage isn't like insane. Of course, you can build him for damage, but it's not like the craziest thing ever. He's still a solid character though, so I literally cannot put him anywhere lower than S tier because of what he does, because he destroys domains, right? He absolutely destroys domains, but I think S tier is a good spot for him. But again, I said this can change based on the situation. Xingling, I don't know where to put this character, to be honest. I feel like people would hate me if I put her in S tier. But she's definitely in one of these two tiers. You know, I think I'm going to put her in SS because she's free. Now, maybe this is a little biased, but Xingling is really good. That's it. Her Pyro NATO does a ton of damage, right? Goba can do some awesome side damage and also helps supportively for Pyro damage. And all around, just a solid character. The one drawback, right, is her energy recharge. But that's not too much of a drawback with specific characters, right, that have released, and characters like Bennett. Yeah, Xingling's just really good, right? And again, being free, I do think definitely helps with that. Xiao's pretty good. I'm a huge fan of Xiao. Xiao's one of my favorite characters. I have him triple crowned. Although, the one thing, right, is he hasn't really received too many buffs. Well, actually, he hasn't received, like, any buffs or changes at all since he's been out since 1.3. He hasn't even, you know, been, he hasn't even had a rerun banner since 1.3, right? So, why is he here? Because he does good damage, right? And he's got really good characters to help him on his teams, right? All around, Xiao's just a solid unit, even though he can struggle inside of single target DPS scenarios, right? He's still really good, and I think, you know, deserves the S tier spot. Xingqiu, you know, maybe I shouldn't have to explain this, but, you know, these three. Anyways, Xinyan. Okay, this is a little disservice. Xinyan can do a couple things, right? She has her shield sucks outright, right? But she can be a decent support with Tendency of the Millilith and provide some physical damage for some characters, which is okay, right? Especially in, you know, kind of nuking situations. There are characters that do outclass her for those specific characters, but she can do that. And that's about it, honestly. Her damage is not that good at all. Her kit is clunky and just she has her problems, right? But she's not the worst character in the game, despite me constantly memeing she is. And now for the one and only Zhongli, S tier, SS tier. I shouldn't even have to talk about this. Insane shield, insane support, crazy character. Rosaria. I think Rosaria is actually pretty good, not gonna lie. I don't know why I said that, but I just think she's good. Provides some crit, has some decent damage, and, you know, buffs the and it's really good for, like, permanent freeze teams, right? Or physical teams once you get her C6. I think she's quite solid, so yeah, A tier. Eula. Eula, without constellations, is S tier. Eula, with constellations, is SS tier. That's how this goes, right? I'm gonna just say that right now. Eula has absurd damage. It's not even funny. She basically one-shots everything in this game, right? Now, you do have to build up stacks for that, but again, hence the constellations, right? Her constellations give her extra stacks that she can build up. Yeah, Eula's absolutely absurd character, does a lot of damage, and funny enough, actually can support, but please do not run a support Eula. Please don't. I just think she's all around good. Also, another one of my favorite characters. I have her triple crowned as well. Yeah, S tier. Yanfei. Yanfei is a solid DPS character, and she has an okay shield, actually, if you want to build her for that. But yeah, just solid DPS, you know, basically tall Klee, right? Pretty similar characters. So yeah, I'd say A tier. Kazuha. Kazuha, in my opinion, is the best Anemo character. He does a lot, right? He does a lot, and this is absurd. Oh, by the way, I should probably mention this, and hopefully you made it to this far in the video, but you should like, subscribe, hit the bell, check me out on Twitch, it'll be in the description. And one more thing, hold on. I know you probably got annoyed by that, but listen. Later today, on my stream, I'm going to be trying out a whale account, right, that has C6 Kazuha and C6 Thoma. So if you want to see that, right, make sure you go to my Twitch, right, and follow so you can check that out for the live streams I'll be doing, you know, in the following days. So yeah. Anyways, I think Kazuha's SS tier. I wish I had him. Unfortunately, I don't, but at least I get to play with him pretty soon. So yeah, that'll be cool. But yeah, he does a lot of support, some solid damage, and yeah, just generally good. Yoimiya. To be honest, I'm torn on this one. I think Yoimiya is really good, actually, for single target damage. However, that's it. Her ult her ult just kind of sucks, to be honest. Yeah, she's really good at single target damage, especially with overload teams inside Fischl. But again, she has pretty lackluster AoE damage. But that doesn't mean she's bad, right? She's still a really solid character. So yeah, A tier. Sayu, I don't think Sayu is that good, to be honest. However, she's like a copium gene. And while Sayu can be good inside of, you know, scenarios of a lot of enemies, there's not a bunch of scenarios with a massive amount of enemies. But she does, you know, provide some decent healing, right? And, you know, swirl and, you know, like Anemo shred, right? Just generic Anemo character stuff. But overall, she's just not that good. The main thing with this character is, though, we need a support Claymore. We don't have one. And specifically, if we had a support Claymore that had EM, right, it would make her a lot better. It would drastically bring her up in this list like this. But yeah, B tier. Raiden. Listen. This character's SS tier without argument. This is just a fact, okay? This character is absurd no matter what you have, especially if you have constellations. My god, she becomes OP. But yeah, Raiden's SS tier. Insane support, insane damage, and yeah, she's just SS tier. Sarah. Sarah is like mediocre. However, I still think she's A tier, because Sarah, if built properly, can have good damage and support, you know, characters, right? The one downside to her, or actually two, there's two downsides. You kind of have to have C2 before she's really functional for most people, right? Which sucks. And the other downside is the fact that her C6 one is what makes her outstanding, you know, once you get the C6. But another part of that is that C6, okay, that C6, it, from my knowledge, right, doesn't snapshot, meaning characters like Beidou can't keep the extra crit damage over the entire burst, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but it does limit this character in the fact that you pretty much only want to use her ideally with nuking on Raiden, which is incredibly strong, mind you. It's just a limit that I don't think this character should have, to be honest. But yeah, A tier is where I'm going to put her. Kokomi's also A tier. Kokomi's really good. She basically makes your team unkillable, although she kind of suffers from the Xiao burst problem where you get the entire unit during their burst, right? And they have to be on field. I mean, that's at least what I think, but you know, really good healing, so solid support, and yeah, A tier. Aloy. This is the only character I will agree with is worse than Xinyan. Well, maybe Lisa. Anyways, yeah, her damage sucks, right? It's like, okay, it's usable. But other than that, right, it's not something I really would suggest building. Thoma, I don't know where my opinion stands in Thoma. I need more experience. It needs to be more data. However, I'm still going to say he's A tier, right? Because from what I can tell, he provides a pretty decent shield. And yeah, that's about it. I mean, you know, you're not going for much more there, right? Maybe my opinion will change once I get to use that C6 Thoma later. But yeah, this is my tier list. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. Tell me what you think down below. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Is there something you would change about this? I don't know. I just want a discussion. And again, as I said before, don't forget to, you know, hit the button, all that stuff. It's in the description. I've been Gold Demon, and I'll see you next time.
Bro, you just posted cringe. Bro,